Welcome to the deep dive. We're diving into digital currencies today, specifically CBDCs, central bank digital currencies and how they could really shake things up, revolutionize India's financial, landscape. You've given us a bunch of cool sources on this. There's this great editorial from Mint. Rupee-backed stablecoins could complement RBI's digital currency. Let's jump right in. I'm curious, can you give us like a simple breakdown of what a CBDC is? Like, what are we even talking about here?
Absolutely. Okay, so imagine, the digital rupees in your bank account,
Right.
right? But they're like actual digital cash.
Yeah.
So similar to, the physical rupees you carry around, right, in your wallet. That's kind of what a CBDC is. Like digital cash, like
Yeah.
real cash, but digital. Issued and backed by, the Reserve Bank of India, just like physical currency.
Okay, so it's like instead of just, numbers on a screen, we're talking about digital tokens.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so actual currency, but in digital form.
Right.
That's interesting. Now, I understand India is planning two types of these e-rupees.
Yep. Think of it like lanes on a highway.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
So there's the EUR, the retail CBDC. That's for your everyday, transactions, like if you're buying groceries or you're paying for like an Uber or something. And then there's the Eurofittal or wholesale CBDC. This is more for like, the big guys, financial institutions. So like for settling transactions between banks and stuff like that.
That's like different digital currencies, like for different needs, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Different purposes.
Makes sense. But why? Why is India even like, considering this whole CBDC thing, like what's the big deal?
Well, the potential benefits are pretty amazing, honestly. One big one is it really helps with financial inclusion. Imagine a farmer in like a really remote village, and now they can receive government subsidies. They can sell their produce, using their phone, even without internet access. Through eUro, they don't even need a traditional bank account, It opens up financial services to millions who haven't had them before.
Yeah. That's really powerful. Using technology to really, bridge that gap and empower people. That's amazing. Sounds like CBDCs could really level the playing field in terms of access to financial services. And I'm guessing there are probably some economic benefits too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Think about, how much it costs to print physical cash.
Yeah, that's got to be a lot.
Right, to distribute it,
Mm.
The Mint editorial, they say India could save a ton of money switching to digital. Plus, we could see less illegal stuff like money laundering, which, by the way, the Financial Action Task Force, they estimate that's trillions of dollars globally.
Trillions. Wow.
Right. But with digital transactions, everything's, trackable, so
Yeah.
it makes it harder to hide funds.
Gotcha. So more transparency, more efficiency in the system overall. Now, the article also mentions some challenges, right? Cybersecurity seems like a big one.
For sure.
I mean, digital systems, they can be hacked, right?
Yeah, that's a very valid concern. Any digital platform needs to be really secure, needs robust security measures. Think about that SolarWinds attack back in 2020. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
It infiltrated like tons of government organizations, private organizations. That kind of shows you how big the threat could be.
Right. So it's all about balancing that innovation, right?
Yeah.
But also those risks that come with it. What other downsides should we be aware of?
Well, one concern is the impact it could have on banks, our traditional banks. What if people move their money from bank deposits to CBDC accounts, right?
Okay.
That could limit how much money banks have to lend,
Yeah.
which, could impact economic growth.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not just about the technology itself. It's about how it impacts the whole system, right?
Ecosystem, yeah.
Whole ecosystem. Now, the editorial, it also talks about something called rupee-backed stablecoins. What are those?
Okay, so think of a digital token, but it's pegged to the value of the Indian rupee.
Mm.
So basically, it's like unlike Bitcoin and those kinds of cryptos that go up and down all the time. Stable coins are more stable, which makes them probably better for everyday transactions.
Okay.
So it's like a hybrid. It's like traditional currency, but also crypto, but with the stability of being linked to the rupee.
Right.
That makes sense. How do these stable coins fit in with the whole CBDC thing? Are they like competitors, or are they working together?
Actually, the Mint editorial, they suggest that they could work together. They could, complement each other to create this really dynamic digital financial system.
Oh, interesting. Can you talk a bit more about that? How do they work together?
Well, think about cross-border payments. Right now, CBDCs are, they're new. There are challenges making different country systems work together.
Stablecoins, though, they can operate more easily between countries, especially where the CBDC infrastructure isn't there yet. It could be a solution for faster, cheaper international transactions. Think about remittances and stuff.
So it's like having different tools for different jobs,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Okay. And I'm also thinking about innovation. Private companies, they can move faster than, big institutions, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's another plus with stablecoins. They can drive innovation in the private sector. They can create specialized apps and things like DeFi and e-commerce. It's like creating a parallel digital financial system, basically, offering more choices for everyone.
Wow. Okay, so while the Reserve Bank is focused on like the stability and the security of the e-rupee, you have private companies, they can explore new things, right? Push the boundaries.
Exactly. It's about having like this multi-layered system, right? You got the strengths of both public and private initiatives.
Awesome. Okay, so we've covered a lot here. The basics of CBDCs and stablecoins, benefits, challenges. But being realistic here, rolling out a CBDC, that's a huge thing.
It is, yeah.
What needs to happen for India to make this transition successful?
That's a great question. I think there are several things, several key steps that India needs to take to make sure this goes smoothly. First of all, you got to have like a robust digital infrastructure.
Right.
We talked about that digital divide, right? So expanding initiatives like Paratnet to get to those rural areas, that's huge. And then digital literacy programs to make sure everyone knows how to use these tools.
Yeah, we can't have a digital revolution if half the population can't
Yeah.
can't even use the tools, right?
Exactly. And then there's, cybersecurity. Got to protect the system from attacks.
Right.
Keep people's information safe. Collaborating with, organizations like CERT-In, that's India's cybersecurity agency. They can help with threat detection, stuff like that.
Yeah. So it needs to be accessible and secure. What else? What else do we need?
Integration,
Uh,
integrate the e-rupee with, platforms that already exist, like
Right.
Aadhaar, the national ID system, and Yantan accounts. Those have already been successful, so build on that. Make sure the CBDC works with, other payment systems.
Smart. Build on what's already working.
Exactly.
Now, what about the people who are going to be actually using this?
Yeah. Public awareness is key.
Hmm.
You got to educate people about CBDCs, about how to use them, build trust, address any concerns they might have. Remember those Digitan Melas, those financial literacy camps? They really help promote digital payments. We need something like that for CBDCs,
Oh, yeah, that's a good comparison. Education is super important, right?
especially when you're dealing with money.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and speaking of accessibility, we gotta remember those without internet access.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of India still doesn't have reliable internet,
Right.
so we need the e-rupee to work offline, or
Right.
maybe through like those NFC cards.
Exactly. That's a great point. So people without constant internet can still, use it.
Fantastic point. So we got infrastructure, security, integration, public awareness. What else? What else are we missing?
We got to establish interoperability standards.
Okay.
We're talking about stable coins helping with cross-border payments, but CBDCs have to like work smoothly with other countries' systems, global standards.
Right, right.
The G20, they're working on that. India should definitely be part of that conversation, to make sure the e-rupee is relevant on the global stage.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially since India wants to make the rupee, more international.
Exactly.
Now, what about the legal side of all this? How do the current laws, how do they apply to CBDCs? Do we need new regulations?
Yeah, we need a clear legal framework
Okay.
to cover things like liability, if there's fraud,
Yeah.
how will these transactions be taxed, consumer protection laws.
Right, right.
They can look at what other countries are doing.
Yeah.
The World Bank, the BIS, and of course data privacy has to be a top priority. Maybe integrate the principles of India's Personal Data Protection Act.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. Clarity on the legal stuff will definitely make people more comfortable. Anything else India can do to, make this rollout successful?
One last thought.
Yeah.
Don't go it alone. Partner up, public-private partnerships.
Yeah.
Get the fintech companies involved, blockchain startups. They can help develop the e-rupee, implement it, drive innovation, reduce costs, make sure it aligns with, the market needs.
Right. Collaboration, right.
Exactly.
That's a great point. It's about everyone working together, the government, the private sector, even individuals. You've given some incredible insights here. I'm really starting to see, how big of an impact this could have.
It's a really exciting time. It feels like we're on the edge of this whole new era of finance,
Mm.
and we get to help shape it.
Before we dive into the next set of sources, that our listener sent us, which are all about the global implications of CBDCs, let's take a second to think about what we've talked about. What are your key takeaways? What are you excited about? What are you worried about? What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, it really makes you think, you know, how this could completely change how our financial system works. It's fascinating. So what's next on our deep dive list?
Well, you mentioned, how CBDCs could affect like the global scene,
Yeah.
right? Geopolitical implications. Well, our listener, they thought of that too. They sent us some past UPSC exam questions on that very topic. I guess they want to understand how all this is seen from a policy point of view, governance and all that.
That's smart. Looking at those exams, it can really show you, the main ideas, the challenges. What kind of questions are we talking about?
One question from 2023, it asks about, whether CBDCs could lead to a more multipolar financial world. Like, would it mean countries rely less on systems like the US dollar
Right.
or the SWIFT network?
Oh, yeah. That's a big one right now. A lot of people are talking about that.
Yeah.
Imagine countries doing business directly with each other, using their own digital currencies. They wouldn't need the US dollar as much or even SWIFT. It would totally change global trade, power dynamics too.
Yeah, it's like instead of everyone using one highway, you've got a bunch of different roads now connecting everything. More options for global trade, right?
Mhm.
But wouldn't that be a big challenge to how things are now?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, the dollar's been on top for decades. Moving away from that affects, everything. Trade, investments, even political influence. A lot of countries, India included, they're looking for ways to rely less on the dollar,
Yeah.
to use their own currencies more. CBDCs could be a big part of that.
So the e-rupee, it could play a part in changing the whole global financial scene. Wow. That's huge. What else can we learn from these exam questions?
There's one that gets into something called programmability with CBDCs.
Yeah.
So imagine you can set conditions on digital currency, like let's say welfare payments. They can only be used for like essential stuff, food, medicine.
So you're building rules right into the money itself.
Yeah, basically, it could make those social programs more efficient,
Yeah.
and you avoid misuse of funds.
Wow. Are there other ways this programmability thing could be used?
Oh, tons. Imagine supply chain finance. Payments could be automatic.
Yeah.
Once certain steps are finished, it would make things so much smoother. Or think about using it to encourage, eco-friendly stuff. Discounts if you buy from green businesses. The possibilities are really interesting.
It sounds super powerful, but I bet there are like some ethical questions too, right? Who decides how this is used? What about privacy? People's freedom to choose how they spend their money.
Exactly. You're right on the money. It's a powerful tool, but you got to use it responsibly. Policymakers, they need to think carefully about the ethics of it, set clear guidelines. We can't have it, violating people's rights.
It's like with these new digital currencies, it's not just about, understanding the tech stuff. You got to think about the ethics, the impact on society. Our listener has given us a lot to think about. What's next in our deep dive journey? Well, it looks like they want to go even deeper. They've included this whole editorial from Drishti IAS, rolling out central bank digital currency in India. They're really doing their research.
Oh, that's great. Trish GIS, they're really respected, especially when it comes to, policy and governance stuff. This editorial's probably got a ton of insights about how to actually make a CBDC work in India.
Yeah, for sure. And they've clearly looked at a lot of stuff, not just the Mint article, but also reports from international groups like the Bank for International Settlements, the Financial Action Task Force.
That's a good sign.
Hmm.
It means they're looking at it from all sides, both India and globally. What are some of the key things they say?
Well, they talk about those benefits again, financial inclusion, lower transaction costs, better monetary policy. But they also go deeper into, the challenges that are specific to India.
Yeah, that's important. You got to understand the context, right? To find solutions that actually work. What are some of the big issues they point out?
One is digital infrastructure, especially in rural areas. The internet isn't always great, and a lot of people aren't comfortable with digital stuff. They say that closing that gap is really important if we want everyone to benefit from CBDCs.
That's a crucial point. I'm glad they're focusing on making sure everyone's included in this this digital shift? What do they suggest doing about it?
They say we need to keep investing in things like HeartNet to make broadband more available. And they say we need like specific programs to teach people digital skills, especially in those rural communities. It's not just about the technology, it's about making sure people can use it.
Exactly. You got to give people the tools and the knowledge to navigate this new digital world.
Yeah.
What other challenges do they talk about?
Cybersecurity and data privacy, those are big ones. They say, India needs strong security for the CBDC system to protect it from hackers and keep people's data safe. They say working with institutions like CERTIN is important for threat detection, things like.
Those are key things. People need to trust the system. You got to have really good security. What about the legal side?
They talk about needing a clear set of rules for the whole CBDC world. Who's responsible if something goes wrong? How are these transactions taxed? How do we protect consumers? They say we should look at what's working in other countries, get advice from the World Bank, the BIS.
That's smart. Learn from what others have done so you avoid mistakes. Do they have any specific ideas for India's CBDC strategy?
Yeah. They say it would be good to connect the e-rupee with things we already have, like Aadhaar Yanton accounts. That way it's easier to roll out and more people can use it. And they really emphasize public-private partnerships.
That makes a lot of sense. Use what's already there and work with the private sector. It could really speed things up. They really thought about everything, all the things India needs to consider for this whole CBDC journey.
For sure. They're saying it needs to be a multifaceted approach. It's not just the technology, it's the social, economic, legal stuff too. It's got to be planned out carefully, and
Right.
everyone needs to work together.
That's a complicated puzzle. All the pieces have to fit just right. But it's exciting to think about how this could really transform India. What's next on our list?
Well, it looks like our listener is also worried about foreign CBDCs. What if they have a negative impact on India's economy? They've sent a research paper that looks at that, specifically whether foreign CBDCs could take over local economies.
Yeah.
And undermine a country's, monetary sovereignty.
Yeah, that's definitely something to think about, especially as more and more countries are developing their own digital currencies. We need to understand how these CBDCs from the big economies, how they might affect, the smaller countries.
The paper uses El Salvador as an example. How they adopted Bitcoin. Says that's a cautionary tale. Shows the risks of using a foreign digital currency without thinking it through carefully. They're worried about losing control over monetary policy, and exchange rates.
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
Imagine if a foreign CBDC becomes super popular in a country, the central bank might not be able to manage things as effectively, like inflation, interest rates, keeping the exchange rate stable. The country's economy could be vulnerable, It might not be able to handle economic problems as well.
It's like, even though we're talking about digital stuff, national borders still matter, right? Economic sovereignty still matters. So what can India do to avoid these risks?
India has to be strategic. Think about the big picture. How will the e-rupee fit in with all these other digital currencies? They could look at ways to make the e-rupee competitive globally.
Maybe encourage.
Used for, transactions with important trading partners.
So it's about finding that balance.
Right.
Being innovative, but also protecting India's interests in this new digital financial world that's changing so fast.
Exactly. It's about being proactive, shaping the future instead of just reacting to it.
It seems like our listener is really covering all the bases here. They're not missing anything. What's the last piece of this deep dive puzzle?
Okay, so they saved the most human part for last. They sent us a bunch of anecdotes, personal stories from people who were part of early CBDC trials around the world.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's so important to hear from real people, to understand how this could affect their lives. What kind of stories are we talking about?
Well, there's one about this merchant in rural China. They can now take digital payments from tourists because of the digital yuan. So it's like a whole new way for them to make money for their small business.
Yeah.
And then there's this student in Sweden. They can easily split bills with friends, manage their money through an app on their phone. It's all connected to the e-krona.
That's great. It shows how CBDCs can make things simpler and help with financial inclusion, even in different parts of the world. It's cool to see how it's being adapted, used in different ways. Yeah. And it's not just about convenience. There's this really powerful story about a migrant worker in the UAE. They can send money home to their family now instantly, and it costs way less. It's part of a pilot program using Cbdc's for, those cross-border payments.
That's incredible. It can really, really make a difference. Remittances are so important for families all over the world, and CBDCs could make them faster, cheaper, and safer. It's good to see the positive side of this technology.
Yeah. It reminds us that behind all the tech talk, the policy stuff, we're talking about people, right?
Yeah,
And how all this can help them.
it brings it back down to earth. It
Yeah.
reminds us why we're even exploring this in the first place. So we've looked at all these different ideas, these insights. What are your thoughts?
It's clear that CBDCs could really, really change things. The way we think about money, how we use it. There are so many potential benefits from helping people access financial services to shifting global power. But just like with any new technology, there are challenges, there are risks, things we need to be careful about.
I totally agree. We need to be smart about it. Embrace the innovation, but also think about the consequences, the good and the bad. And it's a conversation we all need to be part of. Not just policymakers, not just the tech people, but everyone.
Absolutely. So we're about to wrap up this deep dive, but we want to hear from you. What are your big takeaways? What are you excited about? What are you worried about? How do you think this new world of digital currencies, how's it going to affect your life? It's kind of mind blowing, right? To think that digital currency could change so much. How we shop, global power dynamics. It really feels like we're entering this whole new chapter in finance. Exciting and maybe a little scary too.
Yeah. Definitely a time of big change. And we all need to be part of it, understand what it means, the good and the bad, and help decide what the future looks like.
Exactly. It's not just the big shots making decisions. It's all of us. The choices we make about how we use this tech, it'll shape the future of money, of finance.
So thinking about everything we've talked about today, right?
Yeah.
The e-rupee, stable coins, CBDCs going global. What stands out to you? What are you still wondering about?
What are you personally excited about? What makes you, a little hesitant? This isn't just theory, This stuff could really change our lives.
Imagine sending money anywhere in the world, just like that, to help your family buy stuff from businesses across the globe,
Mm.
or having more control over your financial info, choosing to support companies that do things you believe in, using that programmable money. It's all possible.
Yeah. But we also got to remember the challenges, right? Keeping our digital money safe, making sure everyone has access, being responsible with these powerful new tools.
For sure. With any new technology, there are going to be bumps in the road, ethical stuff to figure out,
Mm.
things we didn't see coming. But if we talk about it, if we ask the hard questions, we demand transparency, then we can shape this future together. We
Mm.
can make sure digital currencies help people, make economies stronger, create a financial system that's fair and sustainable.
It's been amazing diving into this world with you, this whole complex, constantly changing world of digital currencies. We hope you learned something today that made you curious, maybe even inspired you to get involved, help
Yeah.
shape this exciting new frontier.
Remember the future of finance. It's being decided now,
Mm.
and we all have a say. So stay informed, stay engaged, and keep exploring this digital revolution.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.